This is Ratatouille. I think it's about time I talked about this movie. But honestly, what would be the point, since everyone loves this movie? So I'm not gonna talk about it. Just kidding. Of all the classic Pixar films, if there's one that has received massive acclaim over the years to the point where it can easily be considered an underrated gem, it's Ratatouille. Easily. I thought it was good as a kid, but not much else. It wasn't really something that stuck with me, or really with anyone else for that matter. And now, everywhere I go, I see so many people saying that Ratatouille is their favorite, if not the best Pixar movie of all time. It's crazy how much attention this movie has gotten over the years. But why? What's so special about a Pixar movie about a rat trained by a ghost to cook food in a 5-star restaurant in Paris? What makes such a weird concept like that one of the best Pixar movies of all time? More and more people are starting to discover what makes this movie greater than what it is on the outside. And today I'm going to talk about those strengths. Here's why Ratatouille is an artistic masterpiece. So like in all movies, the plot is one of the most important elements of a movie. In Ratatouille, the story is very simple. It's not a grand quest or adventure. It mostly takes place in a kitchen, since a rat learning how to cook is what this movie is all about. Despite taking place in Paris, Pixar chooses to keep things compact in Gusteau's restaurant. Because the story is so simple and takes place in a single area, you're able to follow the motivations of all the characters, Remy especially. You understand why Remy wants to be the way he is, you understand the stakes that follow his actions, you get to watch how he overcomes everything that pushes him back from his dream. Again, Brad Bird knows how to tell simple stories that translate into the grounded lives we go through while still keeping the fun intact. This idea of storytelling works because it doesn't try to throw too much information at once at you, but rather chooses to keep things small and simple rather than giving us a grand ambitious adventure. Again, that's why I like Luca, but that's a video for another day. Let's move on to the music. And I know I always say this about Pixar scores, but it needs to be said again. The music in this movie is one of the most unique soundtracks in a Pixar movie. Michael Giacchino can do no wrong. He's always been one of my favorite music composers, and his score for Ratatouille is just perfect. The score is so unique because it reflects the style and tone each part of the movie is going for. The beginning of this movie shows us how rats live their lives in this sort of dirty, flavorless environment, and the score is like... because it's able to depict the filthy life of a rat. In some instances, when it's time for an action sequence, we get to hear Michael Giacchino's signature style of quick and fast-paced music. But far and away, my favorite part of the score is when we come to the scene where Remy is crawling up to see the beautiful ambiance of Paris, and we hear this. Just pure perfection for a scene like this. The rest of the movie's score remains this way, creating a French unique feel that allows you to immerse yourself in the sheer magic of it all. It even has the song Le Festin, sung by Camille, I think I'm pronouncing it right? Which, unless you speak French, you probably won't be able to understand the lyrics, but it still sounds absolutely gorgeous and adds a lot to the style of the film. Another huge thing that makes Ratatouille stand out is its art style. And there's a lot to talk about with the visuals, the sheer beauty of Paris, the way the tone shifts from drab and lifeless to colorful and full of spice. Get it? But I could gush about those elements all day. For now, I just want to discuss another thing about this movie's art style that I find very unique. Up until this point, Pixar had never really been known for having humans as some of their main characters. In fact, the only movie they've made before Ratatouille that have actually had humans front and center is The Incredibles. But everything else they've made are usually anthropomorphic characters. But with any animated movie that focuses on humans, once again, it's cool to see how everything comes into action. Characters look freakish in size, the human proportions are odd, and movies like this are interesting to watch because any specific methods used give the film a unique edge. Skinner is a small figure, no offense to anyone who takes this the wrong way. Linguini and the rest of the cooks have odd facial features from their heads to their nose, and Anton Ego gives off the sort of not so evil but still damn intimidating type of character design. Of course, Ratatouille's artistry doesn't just come from the music and animation, it also just comes from its story and characters. Everything sort of has a meaning, and the amount of messages it throws into the mix, from anyone can cook to follow your dreams, flows perfectly and doesn't feel shoved down your throat. Starting from the opening narration from Remy and his thoughts on humans, it's such a thoughtful quote.
I know I'm supposed to hate humans, but there's something about them. They don't just survive, they discover, they create. I mean, just look at what they do with food.
Because these days there's a lot of people out there, myself included, that have a lot of interesting discussions about the human race. But this single quote from Remy reminds us that even though we all have our faults, which is to be expected since nobody is perfect, we have done some incredible things. And then there's Gusteau's words spoken on the old woman's TV.
And you must not let anyone define your limits because of where you come from. Your only limit is your soul. What I say is true. Anyone can cook, but only the fearless can be great.
It just sets everything up perfectly, because right from Remy's reaction, and once the main plot gets started, he's instantly someone you want to root for because his beliefs are true and his problems are to overcome what everyone tells him is an impossible dream. I mean, the conversation he has later with his dad is great and ties back to the main theme of the movie.
Change is nature, Dad. The part that we can influence. And it starts when we decide.
And of course, how can you not forget the ending with Anton Ego's review, which sums up the whole moral of the movie. This is such an important message, since as soon as we are on this earth, we are then to find a purpose in our lives, whether it be getting a career or becoming part of a family. We doubt ourselves, we think we're unworthy of what we're trying to do, and like Ego said, the world will often be unkind toward new talent. I feel like this is something anyone, myself included, can relate to immensely, and Ratatouille allows us to view the way we live our lives from the perspective of a smaller point of view. As I've been saying, Ratatouille's messages feel so simple, but are very effective. Everything feels earned. You understand why Remy wants to be a chef, you understand his dad's lack of faith, and you understand Linguini's struggle of trying to become something he's not, and it all wraps up in a fantastic monologue. There are a couple things I think could have been better, like I don't think this movie needed to have action sequences. They're cool, don't get me wrong, but I like it when we're just focused on the simple story about Remy following his dream. And scenes like the old lady shootout and the Skinner chase didn't need to be there. I also think they should have ditched Skinner a long time ago. Like, as soon as they find out that Linguini owns the restaurant now, Skinner is fired. They could have forgotten about him, but he just keeps coming back, which I guess adds a little bit of tension once we move into the last third of the movie. But even if they did want to use Skinner more, they could have used him better. And finally, I thought the ending reveal with Remy felt too much like a liar revealed third act breakup scene. The truth is out, everyone doesn't want to work with him anymore, and I'm sorry, I just don't care for the scene. At least it wasn't too overdramatic, so I'll give it that. But other than those nitpicks, this is still a really special movie. The relatability is so universal, and I can't think of a single reason why anyone wouldn't like this movie, which says a lot about Pixar's fantastic story and great sense of artistic expression. Like I said before, on paper, a story about a rat learning how to cook sounds boring, but this movie proves it's so much more than what it is on the outside. I'm sure you've already seen it before, but I highly recommend you give it a rewatch because it holds up tremendously well. It's funny, it's endearing, it's emotional, everything you want to see in a Pixar movie and more. I can't wait for more and more people to rediscover this masterpiece and see how great it truly is.